Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my stepdaughter demands I fund her business. I'm a married woman of 6 years, and I have a stepdaughter who's now 25, and she's graduated college also. She used to live in another state with her grandparents because of her college, so we didn't spend too much time together other than family gatherings and times that she came to stay with us. Now, she's always had a dream of running a cosmetic company or a brand type of thing, and she wanted to start her line of makeup stuff like lip glosses, lip scrubs, and all of that through social media. When my husband told me about it, I was like, great, she should go for it. The problem is, she has absolutely no resources to start this, and I mean money. She never had a proper job, so she doesn't have her own income. I make more money than her father, and he can't give her the proper funding since she needs a lot, and at the same time, it will be a financial toll on him, so he asked me to fund her. I did my research on what she might need, like the materials she would need and shipping company payments, and I discovered that she will need at least 10,000 pounds. She even contacted me for help, and I told them I can pay this amount if I either get a percentage of her brand or if I become a long-term investor in it. Or if she just wants my help for short-term, then she can sign a contract that states she'll have to pay me back. They both disagreed, and my husband started attacking me for treating Carla, stepdaughter, like a business partner. And I told him that's literally business that we're getting into. And I told him my offer was actually very generous. Carla told me she will pay me back, but doesn't want to sign any contract. And I told her that her tantrum when she discovered she's not getting free funding is the reason I'd need to have a contract. We had this lengthy conversation, and they ended up not agreeing to my terms, so she didn't go further with her brand. My husband is still mad at me. Then my mother-in-law called me to say that I'm cold-hearted for not helping Carla, and that I involve business in everything. I just don't understand why they're making Carla's lack of financial independence my problem when they can have her work and gain money, then try to move forward with her dreams, instead of asking me to fund her dreams for free. Now they're shifting this as if I don't consider Carla family, because I help my biological daughter's business through my company. And while that's true, my biological daughter and I have an agreement of giving me 10% of the profits, so I don't fund her for free either. Not the jerk. Carla needs to get a job and start earning an income versus expecting to be handed free money to be repaid when she feels like it with absolutely no contract. Given her lack of all-around experience, this is not likely going to work out well for her or anyone who gives her funding. I suspect something between my girlfriend and my friend. We all live together. We're two couples living together. We all attend the same university. The apartment was originally leased by my girlfriend of about 2 years, Alexis, who's 22, female, and our mutual friend, Brooke, who's 22, female. The apartment is huge and expensive. There was originally supposed to be 3 girls living there, but the last one backed out abruptly. They were planning on moving somewhere cheaper, but they had put a lot of work into the apartment and loved it so much they hated the idea of leaving. I offered to move in when my lease was up in May so we could split the rent and utilities 3 ways. I was sleeping over often anyways. Both girls were absolutely ecstatic about the idea. Shortly before I moved in, Brooke started dating my best friend, Derek. This was cool because now both couples got to hang out with their best friends and significant others all at once. It seemed perfect. Derek began sleeping over a lot, and when his parents sold their house and left in October, he temporarily moved in. We haven't really pushed for him to find a new place because splitting everything 4 ways is helping all of us so much. But again, only Alexis and Brooke are on the lease. The apartment owner surprisingly does not mind as long as the rent gets paid, because we're always quiet. There are 3 incidents that made me think something was up. If it weren't for these combined incidents, I would never make an accusation like this because Alexis is such a sweet and shy girl, and Derek has been a brother to me. They don't seem flirty, but as I mentioned before, all 4 of us are very close friends, so we spend a lot of time together. Incident 1. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Brooke and I have early classes, so we're gone by 8 a.m. Derek and Alexis start in the afternoon, so it's not unusual for them to leave together, though they usually take separate cars. One of these days, I decided to wait for Alexis outside of her class so I could surprise her with lunch. I watched everyone shuffle out of the class, but Alexis wasn't with them. I texted her asking where she was, and she replied, "Just got out of class, gonna go home to study." I called her to see if I had just barely missed her or something, and there was no response, which I considered weird because she had just texted me a second ago. She didn't answer until much later, which is also unusual for her, She's one of those girls that's often on her phone. I ran into Brooke later in the day, and she mentioned in passing that Derek had stayed home sick. She was going to bring him soup, blah blah blah. At the time, I didn't think much of it. When I got home later that night, I noticed Alexa's car was in the exact same spot. She usually parks in guest parking because our unit only has 3 spaces. As a result, her car moves a lot. I asked her if she had gone to class, and she got quiet before sheepishly admitting to skipping because she felt the professor sucked at explaining things. But she knows I hate when she skips classes, something that's gotten her grades in trouble before, but she recently started doing better. I kissed her and I said I trusted her judgment. While I was doing the dishes, she explained how she probably won't skip again because being bored alone in the house was the worst. I laughed and we went back about our business. At night, we went to bed, and as I laid there drifting off, it hit me. She shouldn't have been alone because Derek was homesick, right? She was still up on her phone, so I popped awake and asked her where Derek was today since Brooke had said he was homesick. She seemed startled by the question, but that may have been from me being half asleep to suddenly wide awake with a random question. She said he was here for a bit in the morning, but went to do some errands or something. She wasn't sure. After the other incidents, I realized that the scattered way she answered this question seemed off, but that may just be my imagination. Me and Derek are cool with the dudes in the apartment next to us who are graduates from our university. We don't hang out or anything, but we have the kind of relationship where we make small talk about sports or whatever in the hall and are comfortable asking the other to keep it down without it being awkward. Last Monday, during our break, I was locking up when no one else was at the apartment when I ran into one of the guys from next door. We talked football for a bit, then he mentioned that one of the couples in the apartment is really a fan of hooking up in the morning and that the walls were way too thin. I laughed because Alexis and I usually only did this on weekend mornings when we had the house to ourselves. Brooke and Derek usually spend weekends at her parents' house about an hour and a half away. The more I thought about it later in the day, the more I realized we hadn't done this in the morning in about a month. On the weekends, it had been more towards the evening or not at all. Did he mean on weekdays? My heart sort of dropped. I kind of want to ask him to elaborate, but the conversation ended and I feel like I missed my chance. Plus, it's a weird thing to ask, and I feel like I must be being paranoid. Sunday night, everyone was back in the apartment. I had every intention of speaking to Brooke about the neighbor's comments alone, but before I could, she said something that completely threw my theory off. She told Derek to go get to bed so he wouldn't be tired for work in the morning. What? I knew Derek had a job on campus, but he had always worked the same night shifts. Being as casual as possible, I inquired how long he had been working mornings and when he started. He said he picked up the extra shifts a month ago and worked at 9. I leave at 7:45, so it's possible for me not to have noticed that. I spent the rest of the night trying to figure out whether he was lying about that, whether he still had some mornings here at home, whether Alexis could be seeing someone other than Derek in the mornings, like many of you suggested, or again, if I was just being a paranoid loser. I went to bed feeling emotionally drained and confused. The next morning, I left for class as usual and operated on autopilot. I alternated between thinking I'd run home to check on Alexis and thinking I had way too much work to run around based on a theory that I wasn't even sure about anymore. In the end, I walked out of my first class and straight to my car to go home. In a weird way, I sort of wish I hadn't. When I got to the apartment, Derek's car wasn't there, just Alexis. I walked to the apartment with my heart pounding all sorts of crazy. I don't know what I was expecting. Outside the apartment door, I could immediately hear a guy's voice inside. I heard him talking and laughing, and a soft feminine mumble replying and giggling back. I've been on this subreddit long enough to see all the different reactions people have to this situation. I never once contemplated what I'd do. I pressed my ear to the door to see if I could make out what they were saying, but I could only make out a word here and there. There was a lot of giggling. Then I heard the sound of Alexis being tickled and shrieking. Maybe I should have waited more. In retrospect, I wish I did, but I couldn't take it. As soon as I started fiddling with my keys, it was dead silent in there. She was hooking up with Mark. I never mentioned Mark in the previous post, but he's one of the guys in the apartment next to us, not the one that tipped me off. He's the only one I never liked. He was a know-it-all, always made inappropriate comments, never thought anything of it. As soon as I opened the door, they both gave me a deer-in-the-headlights look that removed any naive doubt I may have retained that the situation was innocent. I was planning on yelling at them or demanding answers, but, and this is embarrassing, my eyes began to well with tears. I didn't want them to see that, so I said, "Nice, real nice," and bolted back to my car. I heard Alexis yelling my name in the hallway and picked up the pace. I sort of expected her to be chasing me, but by the time I got to my car, there was no one following me. I drove to a park that's near the apartment and sat there in disbelief. My first thought, weirdly enough, was, how is my family going to take this? What the heck am I going to tell them? My family loved Alexis. They joked about our wedding and regularly called her part of the family. Then I started thinking about living arrangements. Our finals end in about 2 weeks. There's no way I can handle moving now. I'm applying to an extremely competitive graduate program, and I can't let anything get in the way of that. Definitely not this cheating jerk. I'm writing this from a friend's house. I explained the situation, he explained it to his parents, and they welcomed me to stay with them. I'm going to have to go back home to get some clothes sometime. I'm planning on doing this during lab period. I know Alexis can't skip tomorrow. It took her an hour or so to start blowing up my phone, but once she did, it didn't stop. She started off asking me to come home so she could explain. Before I even had the chance to respond, she sent another one begging me to come back because she was having an anxiety attack, something I always help her through. Maybe I'm heartless, but all I could think was, good, you earned it. There was a pause, and then she sent, I don't know why you get so jealous. We were just hanging out. I waited. She sent, look, I know it looks super sketchy. Believe me, if I were you, I'd think the same thing. But no, we didn't do anything. He needed advice on his girl problems. You have to believe me. No, I don't. Normally, I would have gotten a weird sense of satisfaction watching a cheater scramble to cover themselves, but my stupid brain just kept replaying all the great times we had together and wondering if she was cheating then too. I want to know when this started, but at the same time, I'm worried it's been going on for longer than the month that I've suspected. I received a text later that night from a number I didn't recognize. It was the nice dude from next door. He said, paraphrasing because it was a long text, that he got my number from Derek. He was extremely sorry for what I was going through and that he would have told me sooner, but he wasn't completely sure. He said he knew his friend was seeing a girl with a boyfriend, but didn't put it together until he learned the girl's name. As many of you suspected, the comment was him trying to tip me off. So yeah, he's bro of the year. I don't think Derek and Brooke know yet. I haven't texted them. I haven't found the words. I know it's going to turn our living arrangement and friendships upside down. I guess I should message them before Alexis paints a different picture. I wonder what the cool neighbor said when he asked for my number. I don't think he told them. He would have said something, right? Unless they took her side. Then I've lost my girlfriend and my friends. My ex-husband just admitted he still loves me, and I have no idea what to do about it. We got married young, 19 and 22, with basically a shotgun wedding. Carried for 8 months, just for it to end in a stillbirth. And he was there for me, and he cared, and it felt like we fell in love after we got married. And things were good. He wasn't controlling, he believed in me, motivated me to do more and more. Go to school, get a degree, become a nurse, all of that. He even paid for a good chunk of it himself, like most of it when he wasn't even making good money yet. He never tried to get me to have a kid again either. He was perfect, and he grew into being perfect, which just made me love him even more. What we had felt so loving and good, and like, wow, I really just stumbled my way into this from a casual friend with benefits to an amazing life and husband. And it stayed that good for a long time. Then I hit 30, and things started to change. It was little things, little comments he'd make about how young we were when we first met, how we went straight into making the marriage work and school and apprenticeships, how we never really got to be young, even though I think 30 is still pretty young. And he started to go out with his friends more, but not like before. Before, they would come over and play video games or barbecue or something and just chill out. But then he started going out. And he just started having fun without me, I guess. And then it got worse. He sat me down and brought up the topic of an open marriage, more freedom for exploration, and everything he couldn't do before me, basically. And I said no. He said he wasn't sure he wanted to continue with what we had, and it all crumbled from there. He just decided that he didn't want to be married anymore. To be clear, he divorced me. He didn't cheat on me, but it was motivated by the fact he wanted to. His words. It was a bad divorce, but honestly, only emotionally. I felt blindsided and horrible, and I begged for him to stay. He even said I would do the open marriage after all, which he declined. He said it wouldn't be real if I didn't want it. And thank goodness he did that, because it's true. Because he was a good person through the whole thing. He just was. He gave me our house that I paid a fraction for because he wanted to make it up to me for wasting my youth or something. Youth became such a big talking point. I don't know. He offered alimony, which I should have taken him up on, but I didn't because I felt bad, and I didn't actually need it. But the point is, he divorced me, blamed me for nothing, and was kind. I couldn't even hate him. He wanted to stay friends. I didn't because I was still in love with him. So we landed on friendly. No blocking, follow each other on social media, no bad words to either side of our family, but we don't talk. Except the twice a year Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas texts. The divorce was final in January of 2019, and I thought that was that. I didn't date throughout 2019 and 2020. I couldn't for obvious reasons. Same for 2021, just focusing on surviving. But I did meet someone in 2022, and we've been dating for almost 2 years in February. It's nice, easy. He's divorced too. Neither of us want to get married again, and it just works. We were even talking about moving in together eventually. And then my ex calls. From his mom's phone, no less. I had stayed close to her, not super, but like a phone call twice a month and sending actual gifts for the holidays. So I picked up with the usual, "Hi Judy, how are you?" And it was him. We hadn't talked in nearly 5 years, and then bam, there you go. Ex-husband suddenly is desperate to see me. He said that we really needed to talk and asked if he could come by. He could even bring his mom if I was uncomfortable with just him. And I said yes, but to bring his mom. Now at this point, full on, I thought one of them was dying. Mostly thought it was him and that he wanted to make amends or something, because nothing else would explain the suddenness. He came over to the house with his mom as promised, but he looked fine. They both did, which made me so much more confused. But I let them in and waited for him to say something. It was the most awkward 45 seconds of my life, until his mom elbowed him and said, "I'm not doing this for another year. Tell her, I'll be in the other room." And she left for the kitchen and left us in the hall, and he just started word vomiting. I don't know what else to call it. Like, I'll type out what he said coherently, but I want to make it clear it did not come out this clean. Being young and dumb didn't matter when I wasn't with him. He thought he'd be happy to have full freedom to do whatever he wanted, and he was for a while. He traveled, met people, dated, but it always felt wrong. And he knew he regretted the divorce years ago, but didn't want to bother me after he broke everything apart. For nothing, apparently. He said his friends were in his ear, always talking about marriage and how it slowed them down, and he listened, despite the fact that I never tried to stop him from doing what he wanted. And he still loved me, and he wanted me back, and he never really stopped. And he would talk about it year after year after year to his family. And his mom told him what I had told her, about the idea of moving in with the boyfriend, and it triggered him. And that's how he ended up on my doorstep. I felt like I was in a movie, except the music didn't swell, and I didn't have the magical moment of the love of my life and I getting back together. I just felt confused and angry, and I told him this was all too much to drop on me out of nowhere and to leave, but I'd call him. So now I'm here, still confused, still angry, but now I have to figure out how to tell my boyfriend about this. I will not be leaving him in the dark. But what the heck, man? If you loved me so much, why did you leave me? Why were you so insistent that you had to be with other people? You know I'm seeing someone. You could have tried this for years. I was single. Why now? I feel so suspicious and weird, and I don't know if I believe him. But at the same time, I still have never loved someone the way I loved him. Is it that insane to think that what we had did matter to him? Is that delusional? Or did he just have a midlife crisis and regrets it? I don't know. I just don't know. Update. Well, the height of the dramatics are over. I think it went as well as it could have, but I told my boyfriend everything that happened. He wasn't happy, but he wasn't mad at me or anything. I think it helped that X's mom had been there and we weren't just alone hanging out. But we talked a lot. Spoiler, we are not breaking up over this. And you know what? I love my boyfriend, and maybe it's not as intense as what I had with my ex-husband, but that took years to get to. It wasn't overnight either. I think it also helped that my boyfriend is divorced too, and when I asked what he would do in my shoes, he had a lot to say. So we both agreed I'm going to see and talk to my ex about it. He said that if it was him, he'd want to tell his ex face to face that it was over. So I texted the ex, and to be clear, I wasn't vague about what was going to happen with him. The direct text, which my boyfriend saw, read, "Hey, obviously we need to talk about everything that happened the other day, but I want to be clear that we won't be getting back together no matter how the conversation goes. Knowing that, do you still want to see me?" And he did. So we set up a time and place and public. And again, boyfriend is aware of all of this and he's fine with it. But he did want to come with me. Not like inside where we were meeting, but he drove me over and waited in the car. And I know that could sound weird or bad, but I feel like it makes sense. He's being so calm and collected about the whole thing, I think he just wants to stay in the loop, so not a red flag to me. Anyway, I went and we met up at a park, with boyfriend having direct eye line to the bench we were on, and we talked. It was a lot, of course. I'd always have love for him, but the window to that life closed years ago. He cried and apologized for crying, and it hurt a lot to see, and I felt so bad. I don't want to sound awful or like I don't take my relationship seriously, but for a second there, I just wanted to kiss him and tell him everything would be okay. But I didn't because that would be dumb, and it's time to move on. But the talk was hard, and I'm a little worried he's hanging on to some hope because it ended on a weird note. He asked if things would be different if I was single, which, obviously, I feel like he thought that question made some kind of point that I'm not seeing. I told him the truth, that yeah, it would be. That my boyfriend was the top reason why I wasn't going to be exploring this. He asked what could happen if we ever broke up, and I said that wasn't really a healthy road to go down, but I swear that made him perk up a little. I don't know, maybe he took it wrong. Maybe I'm reading into it wrong. But I don't think I have to worry about him pinning away from me, considering the circumstances of why we aren't together. I gave him a hug before leaving, and that was that. It's still over. Obviously, I told my boyfriend everything, even the weirdness at the end, which he didn't love. But he was fine with me keeping him unblocked. But did say he wanted to be told if he ever reached out again, which is completely fine with me. Like the code to my phone is open, he's welcome in anytime, and I think that helped a lot. I don't know, he was so mature about the whole thing. It was really eye-opening to how much I appreciate what we have. He's very different from my ex, more reserved and quiet, but sweet, and he can still communicate. He just chooses his words and actions very carefully, and that's the kind of thing I need. Stability. I deserve that. I'm still a little worried about the ex though, considering everything I learned and how it ended. But I did my part. I'm not going to cut either of them off, yet, because they really are good people. There is only so much I can write off in a Reddit story, but I don't hate him for a reason, even though he emotionally did me over bad. And especially his mom. She's an angel, and I think after this she won't bring it up again. And if he starts popping up or something from her end, then I'll do the hard work to cut her off too. But that's it. It wasn't a big fairy tale ending that I had dreamed of, but the nice quiet life I made for myself is still intact. I think some people just have an idealized version of what a certain age is supposed to be like, and some people just panic when they start looking so far ahead or back. I don't know which of the two the ex-husband is, but he managed to self-sabotage very well. Peer pressure. OP's ex listened to his friends and decided being single again would bring him lots of fun and happiness. He learned the hard way that there's more to life than drinking and hooking up. I'm with OP. Her boyfriend sounds like a keeper. My boyfriend introduced me to his parents after a year, and I'm disappointed. I'm 23 female, and my boyfriend, who's 26, we've been together for a year now, and he finally introduced me to his parents. He first told his parents about me just over a month ago, but now I've met them, and I'm disillusioned with the relationship, and realized I've been mothering him all along for nothing in return. My boyfriend messages me late the night before that he's going out clubbing. Tuesday night, he usually goes out clubbing twice a week and doesn't bother giving me a heads up. But he says he won't be going hard. Obviously, I'm disappointed, but not surprised, yet I know there's nothing I can do. The following morning, I check my socials and I see pictures of him and his friends posted at 4 a.m. of them at an afters. So much for not going hard. I don't hear from him, so I shoot him a, "What's the plan?" He responds with, "Grab a coffee somewhere and have a wander, or maybe we can go get a meal," and ends up asking me where I want to go. Now I'm getting frustrated because he had a whole month to organize this. By this point, I've already done a few hours of errands. I've done my hair, makeup, I go to a nail appointment for a fresh set, and on my way to town, I pick up a bouquet for his mother. As I'm walking up to my boyfriend and his parents, I can't believe it. There I am in a silk dress with my hair and makeup done, and there my boyfriend is, hungover, wearing the same dirty outfit he wore to the club the night before. His mother makes a comment that she practically had to drag him out of bed this morning because he still hadn't gotten up by the time they had arrived. My boyfriend doesn't have a clue what the plan is. He decides Weatherspoons is the best idea, UK chain pub. In Weatherspoons, you order on a mobile app. My boyfriend orders his parents' meals and pays for all three. To my surprise, I have to order and pay for my own food and drink separately. That aside, I am celiac, and the menu in this pub isn't very allergen-friendly. At the time, his father makes a comment about how small the portion sizes of their burgers are, and my boyfriend suggests we go to another chain pub around the corner after this. But my boyfriend took me there once for a meal, and the only gluten-free celiac-safe option they had was a side of mashed potato. That's seriously it. It really upset me that he raved about how good the food was at that place and wanted to bring us all there next when he knew exactly how upset the experience made me. I'm not sure how he forgot, so I sat quietly, wanting the ground to swallow me whole. After the meal, we go to an arcade and had a lovely time. His parents are amazing folks who I'm honored to get to know, especially as his mother is battling cancer, and it was very important to me that I meet her at some point. Overall, I'm left conflicted and confused. I have so many questions. He's 26, and I feel like it's ridiculous that as a 23-year-old, I have to tell him to dress nicely, or that he didn't bother to make plans and tried to make me sort something out the morning of. This man has never once paid for my meal, let alone organized a proper date that isn't buying him a Lego set from a toy store. I feel so dumb for maybe expecting a dinner reservation or a trip to a nice cafe, or at least for him to pay for my meal this time, let alone remember that I'm celiac. He is a career chef. It's not hard. A side note, I'm not mad he went clubbing. I'm just confused as it was objectively a bad decision to be hungover when introducing his parents to his girlfriend of 1 year. I know that's not too much to ask. Anyways, what should I do? I feel rotten as this whole meeting has disillusioned me. This felt like the last straw for his low effort and lack of common sense. I realize now he's incapable of making these adult decisions and directing himself properly. He's still battling dumb teenager impulses as a nearly 27-year-old man that has lived by himself since he was 18. This isn't the sort of thing that will get better. But I'm stuck in the guilt of having met his terminally ill mother. If we break up, I'd feel terrible if she passed soon after, and I'm not sure how to navigate this. Sick and tired of holding on to a rope that it will get better. Please help. I'm at a loss, and I don't know where to start. You've been dating him for a year. Did you really expect him to be a different person when his parents were there? Which would actually be worse, by the way. This is who he is. He isn't going to magically become someone else. He might grow up someday, but how long are you planning to sit around and wait for that to happen?
My fiancée sold the expensive gift I got her. I, 28 male, and my fiancée, 29 female, have been together for 3 years. There are many things that I love and adore about my fiancée. She does have expensive taste and works to afford most of her clothes and jewelry. I work in IT for a state government agency. She works in her family's company and does work part-time. We equally pay for the bills, rent, and essentials. We are not planning on having an expensive wedding as we'd much rather save money to use on our honeymoon trip. My fiancée's birthday was last weekend, and she has been asking me about this bracelet that will complete her set. The bracelet cost about $300, and I went to the store to purchase it for her. I bought her a nice card and gift wrapped the bracelet. We did a small celebration with a few of her friends, and she was very excited to receive the bracelet. She put it on and started showing it to her friends. I was browsing the marketplace when I saw the bracelet being sold for a little more. When I went to check the listing, she listed the bracelet for $500. I did confront her about the listing, and she got angry with me. She thinks that I was in the wrong for stalking her seller profile when I saw the listing appear when I refreshed the page. Am I the jerk for being mad at my fiancé for selling an expensive gift? So she just got this item, which she had asked for to complete her set, and then turns around and immediately sells it? Wow, I'd be upset too. And yes, if you are linked to someone on a marketplace site, their stuff does show up for you to view. Not the jerk for being mad. Feelings are feelings. Her immediately accusing her partner of stalking her by viewing a page available to the public proves she knows it's wrong. Not the jerk. Well, if you choose to stay with her, you know only to give her unprofitable stuff, gift cards, personalized or engraved items, experiences, or cash. Not the jerk, because it honestly sounds like she asked for it just to sell it. She told you she needed it to complete a set, but then sells it single? She's not telling you the whole story here. Not the jerk. Normally, I would say that once a gift is received, it's up to the recipient to do what they want with it. However, in this case, it's really odd as you had just given it to her and she asked you for it. I could understand selling something if it wasn't to your taste. It would also be understandable if she said she wanted it specifically because she knew she could flip it for a profit. Instead, she's accusing you of stalking her. Clearly, she's hiding something from you, which is concerning. If there was a simple answer, she wouldn't be trying to turn this around and shift blame. Something is up, and you really need to talk it out with her, especially if this is atypical behavior on her part. OP. I bought her a nice pair of $150 boots that she wanted for the winter. I had not seen her wear them since they were purchased. I asked her where they went, and she said that her friend was borrowing them. It's really annoying. Something is definitely up. If she's having financial issues, you need to sort that out before you get married. She's definitely hiding something from you. At best, it's a shopping habit or a credit card debt, and at worst, it's something much worse. Either way, it's not good because she's lying to you. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know.
I wouldn't buy her anything from now on, bruh. She foul.
Ex-boyfriend insists I play a game he assumes he's better at. I complied. Every once in a while, I think about this story while I'm idly playing Sudoku on my phone, and it makes me smile. I realized it's perfect malicious compliance / petty revenge material. I don't want to go into too much detail here, but some background is needed. A few years ago, when I was in grad school, I dated a man who was several years older than me who had just finished his master's at the same school. Completely different program, but both in the realm of STEM, and started a company based on that work. He seemed to have a chip on his shoulder about the fact that he went back to school in his late 20s and the fact that I was in a PhD program. I need to emphasize that I did not think I was better or smarter than him in any way, and I thought, and still think, he is incredibly smart and his company does fascinating work. But he still projected this inferiority complex on me, and it was one of the many things that soured our relationship. He was obsessed with feeling smarter than me and bringing me down a peg. The relationship ran its course within a year and the breakup was messy, but he insisted on remaining friends despite a lot of obvious tension between us. One day he asked me to help him pick up a moving truck he needed for work, and I agreed. But when I got in the car, we were kind of quiet for a couple minutes, so I pulled out my phone and finished the Sudoku game I had up on my browser. For some context, I am incredibly good at Sudoku relative to most people. This is because I obsessively solved Sudoku puzzles as a kid and just had a big book of them to solve on long bus rides to school, and it's still my go-to game to play while waiting in line, going to the bathroom, etc. I don't really correlate this with intelligence. My brain is just trained to recognize the patterns and solving them is soothing. He looked over and saw I was playing and asked what app I played on. I said I just play on a certain website I like, and then when he asked why I don't use a Sudoku app, I tried to be as neutral as possible in my response and said that the website had a nice spread of difficulty and that every app I tried had either been all too easy or too hard. Admittedly, it's almost always too easy, but because of aforementioned inferiority complex, I was hedging this on purpose. He had a kind of, "Oh, really?" response and insisted I try the app he has on his phone because he was sure I would find it hard. So I maliciously complied. I opened up the hardest setting of the puzzle in his app and solved it in about a minute, beating the record on his phone by at least a minute and a half. I showed it to him and he seemed alarmed and basically said I got lucky. So I played several more times so that my times flooded the fastest times list until his were all gone. His shock and frustration at this was satisfying on its own, but many months later, when I had long forgotten about it, he randomly sent me a screenshot of his puzzle in that app with a faster time, except it was for the easiest puzzle setting. So, of course, to be petty, I immediately downloaded the app, played on the easiest setting, beat his time by a significant margin again, and sent a screenshot. Was this mean? Maybe. Was it satisfying? Yes.
Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.